I loved it.
And I just want to add one thing before we go on, because somebody might ask you, like, we understand that praise is isn't the best thing to be providing for children, right? And I knew that when we wrote the curriculum, and I was working with a community of learners that used praise a lot, and we were trying to encourage them to be more shared positive with their babies. It was infants and toddlers and some breeds. And I thought, by gosh, I'm not going to take away something that somebody's already good at. I see it as a continuum, and we know in our society that, you know, like a parent might know to give praise, and then if they were to come to a SEEDS training and say, oh no praise, that's not good. So I wanted to keep it on a continuum. So if somebody asks you that, and Dana brought up the really important part about affirmation and specific and growth mindset, and there's so much that we're knowing. And we also want to start where a teacher is at, and so that's why praise is in there. Does that feel all right to you?
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I just think that there's a continuum for everything, and praise, like, I would prefer that than the harshness that you mentioned over there.
Thanks. So the next 3 letters we're actually going to move through rather quickly, and it's written that way in the trainer manual. Because the rest of the sessions focus so extensively on them, explicitly. So the second E in SEEDS is for education. And a SEEDS quality teacher educates to the big 5 early literacy predictors, which are what?
Apple.
Apple.
Vocabulary, alphabet,
phonological,
Did you know how much faster you did it? Like, did you notice how much faster you did it this time versus before the first time around? It's great. As well as the big 5 math ideas, and the teacher asks themselves, and these were kind of the same questions I think about when I plan training is, what do you want the children to learn? What is the child able to do? How do you know? What learning stage or color is the child at today, and what will you do next? Conveniently, these questions are involved in every SEEDS intervention. So it's printed right on there for you and for your teachers. So it's a really helpful habit to get into in answering those questions. Then we'll proceed to development of skills through doing. So a SEEDS quality teacher helps children develop skills through doing using a multi-sensory approach. Children that are actively engaged using their eyes, their hands, their ears, their mouth, and their nose are more likely to enjoy learning and move on the road to language and literacy. We know there's some caveats to that, to the eating piece, right? But we understand the idea. But the more that we have children doing the work, the more they'll learn. Children who are actively engaged in learning are clapping, singing, reading, thinking, writing. There are lots of ways that they're doing it in the classroom. Okay? And the last S in SEEDS is self-image. A SEEDS quality teacher develops a child's self-image, which is the opinion that a child has about self-worth or intelligence. And this piece is really important, the self-worth piece. And I think that's why, correct me if I'm wrong, Kate, why there's such an emphasis on affirmation is that with praise, sometimes what kids learn is I'm doing it for your happiness. I'm doing it so that you are proud of me. And there becomes less of a focus on I'm doing it because I'm proud of myself and because I'm happy. So that's where that self-image is really key. A balanced SEEDS approach to teaching a child is more likely to create a self-image that feels both respected and capable. So that is SEEDS in a nutshell. From this point on, what we'll do is continue to think about this, all of the components of SEEDS and how they pertain to the different interventions and routines that we have within the framework. And the first thing I'd like to introduce you to is the writing continuum. Yes, our first intervention. So I'm on page 36 in your participant manual. And the first thing that you should know is that there are multiple continua within seeds. And in order to read this, you have to know a couple things. This arrow is very important. So this is telling you that these stages, each box represents a different stage. They increase in complexity. So the higher the stage is on the complexity, the more challenging it is. So what is the most, here's a check for understanding. What is the most foundational writing skill? Early fine motor stages. And what is the most complex? Yes. Why is it not on this slide? Okay, but yeah, it's right up here, right? And so what you should also know is within each stage, there are multiple stages there, mini stages. And those also increase in complexity. So when we look at early fine motor stages, there are 2 steps within that. What is the most foundational step for early fine motor stages? Yeah, absolutely. And once a child has become fluent in those skills, they'll proceed to the next, which is eye-hand coordination. Transferring objects, dumping objects, using objects as tools. And once they become fluent in that skill, they'll go up to the next. Okay, so there's this upward motion as kids develop their writing skills. Now each child that comes to you will be at a different place on the continuum. And sign-in is one of the strategies that you'll use to aid them and guide them wherever they are. That's what I love about it. Now because sign-in happens typically one-on-one, whereas sometimes in different programs it happens in groups or the kids kind of do it on their own. In this with this intervention, it's one-on-one. So there's a teacher working directly with a child. It's a critical time for building relationship, number one. But it really helps the teacher kind of identify where the child is and be strategic about helping the child move to the next steps. So let's learn a little bit more about that intervention. If you look at page 37, you'll see the intervention script. And the first thing I want to direct your attention to are those gray boxes on the left. So the objective for sign-in level 1, notice that it says level 1 there. We have multiple levels for each intervention, and as children become fluent with level 1, they'll proceed to level 2 and level 3 if there is one. But if I can point your attention to the objective box, the objective for sign-in level 1 is to increase fine motor coordination, letter formation, and understanding of basic concepts about print. And I love the next piece in this box. It says, use with children who. It gives you guidance as to which kids need this intervention. What do we see there? Let's popcorn out those 4 bullets.
Are unable to form letters independently.
Yep, thank you.
Are not accurate when forming letters of their name.
Yep, thank you.
Do not understand the concept of left to right.
Yep, thank you.
Are not accurate read with identifying letter names or letter sounds.
Yeah, thank you. So this intervention is targeting 4 things: letter formation, specifically, I guess with that, the letters in their names, left to right orientation, which is huge in reading and writing, and that's also pertains to English, which we want to make a distinction about, or identifying the letter sounds in their names. Okay. It also gives you recommendation for materials. That there's a name card for each child that has their name printed correctly, adding, at least in English, adding the capital letter up front with a picture of them. And at this stage, it is preferable but not required for children to sign in on a large upright surface. There's actually it helps them to establish their core by doing so, which can help their fine motor. It kind of stabilizes their hand in a way that sitting down and writing on a flat surface does not. So as children become, say more. Yes?
I never knew that, that's interesting.
Yeah, yeah. But as children become more fluent and you're noticing okay, you can form your letters, you've built your core, you have more stability here, then you can proceed to a flat surface. So what I'd like you to do is, I'm just gonna give you 3 minutes to read through just page 37, and this is the script. And then we'll actually see it in action. Right? Okay, take a few moments to read. Take one more minute.